Good morning, all. Welcome to today's event of New Global Horizon delivered by RIBA in partnership with the UK Department of International Trade. I'm Aslina Bulmer, Director of International at RIBA, and I'm here to chair today's event. I'm delighted that so many of our members are here this morning for this webinar. Promoting and supporting RIBA members in overseas market is a key part of our work, which is very important for us, and it has become even more important with the impact of Brexit, a global pandemic, and a changing global political environment. However, with challenges comes opportunity, and the event today will shed light on new markets and explain the services and support that exist for our members to export and grow your practice into international markets. Today, we welcome speakers from 5 different countries, and before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our speakers for joining us today. Alan Vallance, CEO of RIBA, the Right Honourable Great Hands MP, who will be showing a video of, Martin Knight, Director of Knight Architects, Barry Harris, Sector Manager of Creative Services DIT, Ian Barnett, Senior Trade Development Manager, Infrastructure, British Consul General, Australia, Chris Dunn, Head of Environment and Infrastructure, British Consulate General, Shanghai, Mike Collins, Head of Infrastructure, APAC, Laura Boss, Trade Advisor, Creative Industries and Experience Economy, British Embassy Dubai, Yamish Yaqub, Senior Trade Advisor, Creative Industry, British Embassy Riyadh. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this event, especially for those in the East where it's getting very late. It is very much appreciated. Before I hand over to Alan, just a little housekeeping reminder for our audience. As we're conducting this event via Teams, we cannot hear or see you, but please do the Q&A function to tell us where you're listening from. And also there will be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. So please do again use the Q&A to type your questions. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but if time runs out, we will do our very best to get back to those unanswered questions on an individual basis after the event. Now to the main event itself. I'm delighted to have Alan Vallance, CEO of RIBA, here this morning, who will give us his welcome. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you very much indeed, Aslina. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today to welcome you all to this joint RIBA DIT webinar, which is about new overseas opportunities for architects. The RIBA is a global professional membership body driving excellence in architecture, and we've got just under 50,000 members in just over 115 different countries. I'm also, in my role as Chief Executive of the RIBA, a member of the UK Creative Industries Trade and Investment Board, which supports the export of the UK's architecture services, which are the best in the world. Our international work has grown from strength to strength in the last 18 months. In 2019, we opened our first 2 international offices in the UAE and in China. And we've got 4 international regions, the Americas, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Asia and Australasia, and 6 established international chapters which serve local communities of architects right around the world. Our RIBA international team offers support to members for international work, including those based in the UK who want to work overseas. And through our work, the RIBA champions better buildings and places, stronger communities and a sustainable environment globally. We work closely with the UK government and departments such as DIT who support UK exports, and we're delighted to be working with them again on this event today. We do our work through a diverse range of initiatives and a really packed events calendar, which currently includes things like the 88 Places and Spaces Architecture Photography Competition, which is just open in China, the inaugural RIBA Gulf Chapter Architecture Festival in Dubai Design District, which has got over 30 projects from the GCC region, and talks programme showcasing sustainable development. The Catalysing Change virtual conference, which is being delivered with RIBA's Sri Lanka team and the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, and also the annual Business of Design Week and Detour Festival with the RIBA's Hong Kong chapter. Over recent years, we've significantly increased our presence on global platforms in order to promote design excellence and also to promote the work of our RIBA members, including at Cityscape Global in Dubai, MIPIM in France, and Archifest in Singapore. This work is particularly important because architectural services are a big UK export earner. The annual RIBA business benchmarking study showed the overall value of international work for UK chartered practices over 2018-2019 increased by 22% to £625 million. Part of a positive trend that also shows the Asian market worth 177 million of revenue to practices and 144 million in Europe. The RIBA is also a member of the Architects Council of Europe, the Commonwealth Association of Architects, and the International Union of Architects, and we work closely with our sister institutes in countries right around the world. This global connection and collaboration means that the RIBA has got a very established network of contacts that can help our members sell their services around the world. It also firmly anchors our position globally and helps us to increase the profile of the RIBA and, most importantly, of our members. We're working on a new series of talks with these partners, the Global Architecture Exchange, the second of which in the series is on next Tuesday, the 17th of November. And that's going to explore the relationships between architecture and culture with speakers from the UK, Ireland, China, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand and Japan. Today, I'm delighted that the Right Honourable Greg Hands MP, the Minister of State for Trade Policy at the Department of International Trade, has been able to provide us with a short video on the importance of UK architecture exports and the role of the RIBA in driving excellence in architecture. Greg's a sympathetic ear in government and someone who's genuinely interested in and understands the importance of architecture. And I've taken him on several building visits to RIBA awarded sites in the UK so that he can better understand the value of great design and take that back into his role in DIT. Today, we're launching our latest RIBA report in the Design Matters series, World-Class Buildings by UK Architects. This is the 5th report in the series, but it's the first one that looks at the excellent work undertaken by UK architects across the globe. The projects featured in the report demonstrate the talent, the skill and the ambition of architects who've worked to ensure that UK architecture is and continues to be world leading. And later on, we're going to hear from Martin Knight from Knight Architects about his experience working internationally, and he'll discuss some of his work which is featured in the report. So please enjoy the event. Thank you for taking the time today to join us, and I'll hand back now to Aslina to chair the remainder of the event. Aslina.
Thank you, Alan, for your welcome. I'm now delighted to introduce a short pre-recorded video from the Right Honourable Greg Hands MP.
Words as part of the opening of this virtual conference. We all know that services are the predominant driver of the UK economy, contributing 79% of GDP and employing roughly 26 million people, approximately 80% of total employment. And architectural services are a vital part of that picture. The UK's architecture sector is world leading and our reputation is second to none. It is built on the highest standards of professionalism, design, best practice and educational excellence. In 2019 alone, the UK exported £637 million worth of architectural services and imported 102 million, leading to a surplus of £535 million. So that's a ratio of 6 to 1, our exports to imports in architectural services. Since 2000, architectural exports have grown by 578%, from 94 million to 637 million pounds. Looking ahead, there are a number of priorities for our Department for International Trade. The government has committed to having 80% of UK trade covered by free trade agreements within the next 3 years. We are therefore working to deliver an ambitious free trade agreement programme that drives a hard bargain for Britain and benefits businesses and consumers in every part of the UK. We are also seeking to expand trade and help to level up the economy by attracting inward investment all parts of the UK, increasing exports in every region, and gaining market access for UK businesses, including SMEs and those new to exporting. In 2020, the UK will also use its independent voice to champion free, fair, rules-based international trade and strengthen the World Trade Organization's multilateral rules-based system. The UK will remain a strong supporter of services liberalisation and will support efforts to enhance international rules for trade in services at the WTO, providing stability, predictability, and lower non-tariff barriers for businesses. We are also continuing to build DIT as an effective department with a strong regional and overseas presence, world-class trade negotiation capacity and expert enterprising engaged and inclusive people who deliver confidently across the whole country. And of course, we will have a big role to play in the economic recovery post-COVID-19. This pandemic has highlighted the profound importance of free trade and openness. Global value chains are fundamental to our prosperity and resilience. My department moved quickly as soon as the crisis emerged. We reached out to international partners and encouraged G20 trade ministers to respond. We will continue to do all that we can to ensure that international trade and cooperation supports our economic recovery from COVID-19. Our future free trade agreement programme is now well underway. Despite intense goods liberalisation over the last 25 years, the trade costs for services are estimated to be 3 times higher than those for goods and have remained fairly constant. And although the majority of more recent trade agreements include services provisions, according to the WTO, just over half of all trade agreements in force contain services commitments. We will use our FTAs to support the growth and success of our world-class architectural services, including with our priority partners of the US, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. We have been making great progress on this across a number of different negotiations. The UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or the CEPA, was signed by the Secretary of State Liz Truss and Japan's Foreign Minister in Tokyo on Friday the 23rd of October. It is the first major trade deal that the UK has struck as an independent trading nation. The CEPA goes further than the EU-Japan agreement to deliver benefits for UK services suppliers. One key benefit is that it has secured improved mobility for business people such as yourselves and secured more flexibility for Japanese and British companies to move talent into each country, covering a range of skilled UK workers to enter Japan. It also commits the UK and Japan to avoiding unjustified restrictions on the free flow of data between the UK and Japan, giving businesses the assurance they need that they can collect, process and transfer data between the two countries without facing unnecessary red tape. With the US, we continue to make rapid progress and recently concluded our 5th negotiating round in October. The US and UK services markets are large, at the core of both economies, and already very well connected. We have shared values, truly world-class service providers, and an unwavering commitment to high professional standards. Our focus here is on how we can take this strong foundation even further, be it through identifying regulatory hurdles or new opportunities like mutual recognition agreements. We have also just concluded our 2nd round of negotiations with each of Australia and New Zealand. Talks were very productive, covering issues such as recognition of professional qualifications and business mobility. Good progress has been made towards a comprehensive deal with each of them. Discussions with these two countries will also prove to be an important stepping stone towards CPTPP accession. Pursuing accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement Trans-Pacific Partnership is a priority for the government and a key part of our trade negotiations programme. As a free trade area with a single set of rules and very strong mutual offers on market access for goods and services, CPTPP offers something fundamentally different to a network of FTAs. We are also working at pace to ensure seamless transition of existing EU trade agreements. In under 2 years, the UK government has negotiated and agreed trade agreements with 51 countries. Total UK trade with these countries was worth £144 billion in 2019. And we're doing these deals almost on a weekly basis, recently with Ukraine, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, and others. The countries with which we have agreed trade agreements to date accounted for 10.1% of the UK's bilateral trade in 2019. Returning to architecture, there are a number of trade policy tools that can be used in FTAs to support sectors like architecture. One of the key issues is recognition of professional qualifications, We know that this can help reduce red tape, time and cost to architects and provide certainties to businesses operating abroad. Whilst mutual recognition agreements are ultimately a matter for regulators to agree, we recognise that governments can be a powerful catalyst and help inject momentum to what can otherwise be a lengthy and technical process. We are seeking to agree commitments in our FTAs which provide the right level of support for these technical discussions and to ensure we embed that support in our FTAs. In addition, we recognise the importance of cross-cutting commitments. For example, digital trade provisions aim to reduce the cost of international trade by facilitating the coordination of global value chains and helping to connect businesses and consumers. The UK will also use its future investment agreements to make it easier for UK firms to invest abroad, adopting a whole-of-economy approach to facilitate investment across all sectors. We will ensure UK investors abroad receive the same high standard of treatment that foreign investors into the UK receive. Business mobility is also an important facilitator for trade in services. Many of our existing free trade agreements include commitments on the temporary movement of skilled professionals, also known as Mode 4, and we recognise the value such commitments can have in supporting trade in services and investment. The UK will continue to champion services liberalisation through our own independent trade policy and will ensure that architectural services remain an important part of that. We will continue to do this multilaterally, plurilaterally and bilaterally through engagement at the World Trade Organization and through FTAs in ways which will benefit the entire UK family, supporting businesses to grow and providing increased choice for consumers. Of course, throughout this process, we are very keen to continue engaging with business and organisations like RIBA, ensuring your interests are considered and reflected in our approach to trade negotiations will be vital in ensuring these agreements deliver meaningful outcomes for the sector. I would ask that you continue to engage with my department and its officials. I'm delighted that the event today offers you an opportunity to hear firsthand from a number of DIT trade advisors. These in-country experts can update you on the current opportunities that exist and how DIT's network can help you explore new market opportunities and work towards increasing your international business. I look forward to speaking with all of you again soon. Thank you very much indeed for your time and for your attention. Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of information there in that video. Thank you very much to our policy and public affairs team who organised getting the piece recorded. It was really useful. I'm now delighted to introduce Martin Knight, Director of Knight Architects and part of the member of the RIBA International Committee, to talk about the lower, and I'm going to get this very wrong actually, lower Hatea River crossing in Whangarei, New Zealand, one of the case study projects in the RIBA Design Matters publication. And over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Aslina, and good morning. This is a short presentation about my practice, Knight Architects. I'm hoping the slides will rotate whilst I'm talking. And specifically talking about our experience working internationally. Knight Architects is a chartered practice of the Royal Institute of British Architects, the RIBA, and this is an important accreditation which can be a key differentiator working with overseas colleagues and differentiator from overseas competitors. I know from my work on the International Committee that the RIBA plays an important outreach role supporting British architects overseas and providing a huge range of cultural and membership services. So we've always found it is helpful to be aligned with the RIBA. Next slide, please. To begin with, I should explain we are specialists in the field of civil infrastructure and the majority of our work is bridge design. I believe this kind of niche expertise is distinctive and is therefore valuable in export, where we are frequently entering new markets and we benefit from a unique selling point. Our website is knightarchitects.co.uk and we are currently working on a new .eu variant of our site in French and in German as well as English, with market-focused content to further appeal to international clients and to reinforce our openness to working beyond the UK. Next. As an SME of 20 people, we have always employed our skills beyond the UK, currently including Ireland, France, Norway, Sweden, Germany, the US and New Zealand. This reflects the cosmopolitan nature of our team, which over 14 years and 50 employees has been more international than British and incidentally more female than male. This image is part of the long-running UK DIT Great Britain campaign, and we have enjoyed a very successful relationship with this helpful arm of government, which has supported us most recently in the Nordic countries. Next, please. As a small studio, it is essential to cultivate relationships with the larger consultants like Atkins, Arup, Arcadis, Jacobs, Mock McDonald, Ramboll and so on, who have great reach in our target market of infrastructure. This varies from these major international players, such as for our 2013 competition-winning Krunusilat scheme in Helsinki, where we teamed up with the Finland office of WSP. Next, please. To important regional and local players, such as Covey or Sweco, with whom we are working on the replacement for the 770-metre long, £60 million Lilla Lidingöbron, currently under construction here in Stockholm. Next. Throughout this project, we've been prominent in the local press, online and on TV, explaining and sometimes selling or even defending key decisions of the public sector client. Not just about the design, but even the need for the project itself. Like in many overseas projects, this of course raises the question of language. I haven't felt excluded by not speaking Swedish, although I recognise we miss part of the overall narrative and a lot of the nuance. But equally, I'm certain it's been helpful at times for our Swedish client to defer to their international or foreign expert, trading on the fact that we are different. Next. Our involvement in the Lower Hatea Crossing project in Whangarei in the north of New Zealand began in 2011 and came via recommendation from another UK consulting engineer. Even though we are about as far away as can be imagined from the project, our specialist expertise and international reputation was a valuable asset in winning a design and build tender where the quality of the team and its approach to design was key. Next. Next slide, please. Unusually, this highway improvement project had two clients. The local district council, who wanted to use the bridge to not only divert traffic from the town centre, but to elevate its tourist identity and to celebrate the art and culture of the indigenous Maori people. Whereas the other client, the New Zealand Transport Agency, saw this as purely infrastructure, with not a cent for art and culture. We saw this conflict as a creative opportunity. Next, please. However, to make the inherent contradiction even harder, the mayor said he wanted the bridge to open in 7 seconds. When we said that couldn't be done, he insisted it could, as he'd seen it on the internet. So the power of modern global communications can bring challenge as well as opportunity. This extraordinary combination of briefing requirements led to the development of a unique architectural solution whose rolling bascule form is both wholly functional and also reflects the iconic fishhook motif, te matau, that is central to Maori culture. Next. Working at distance presents obvious challenges, yet there are also opportunities to be grasped. The complex interactions of architectural form, structural engineering and mechanical design were integrated in a single shared 3D CAD model, passed backwards and forwards and accessed online, which often allowed us 16-hour working shifts in a 24-hour period, so exploiting the overlap of time zones. Next. The collaborative potential is even more powerful in the current pandemic, where travel is limited, and we can team with local architects as well as with engineers without intruding on their patch. And of course, the production side of our industry addresses long distances every single day. The lifting span in this project was fabricated in China, and the hydraulic cylinders, the yellow objects in the image, were fabricated in the Netherlands before being shipped around the world. Next. One of the real successes of the project is the architecture and engineering are perfectly integrated, only truly achievable through close collaborative working, with nothing decorative, everything functional, and two very happy clients for whom the twin briefs of cultural icon and transport improvement were fulfilled perfectly. Next. Equally satisfying and equally importantly, the bridge design was embraced by the local people from its completion. This photograph is of the pre-dawn blessing by the Maori elders of the three iwi and reflects genuine local pride in their new symbol and underlines the importance of visual communication and storytelling skills in architecture. Next. And finally, and of course, the mayor was delighted that the bridge can be raised very rapidly and they got their icon. And with that, I'll hand back to Aslina. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I'm really pleased the mayor got his icon. It looks fantastic. It looks absolutely marvellous. And now to welcome our first speaker from UK Department of International Trade. The work of DIT in trade, investment and cultural relations is crucial to promoting the work of RIBA architects globally and helping UK architects win work internationally. And we very much value their support. I personally work very closely with most of the speakers speaking today, but also elsewhere. There are going to be 5 now. Short sessions from UK and in-country representative, and we're going to ask each of them to hand over to each other directly. Before we welcome Barry, just to say that unfortunately Chris Dunn, who's due to be here today from China, has had some technology problems, but he's going to send me some notes, so I will read that so that you don't miss out some of that key information for China. But for now, please welcome Barry Harris, Sector Manager for Creative Services based in the United Kingdom. He will give an introduction and overview of the services available to architects. Barry will also introduce his colleagues as well. Over to you, Barry.
Thanks, Aslina. I should say at the moment, this is for Richard really at RIBA. I'm not seeing the slides, but on my team link for some reason. But I just to start, I'm pleased to be able to talk to you today. I work on the creative industry sector team, looking after creative services at DTI, and within that brief, it includes architecture and design. I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining how DTI is structured to help you pursue work internationally. Focus on a few of our priority markets for creative industries and talk about some examples of the work we do to support companies overseas. And then, as Lena mentioned, cover some of our services that can help you into new international markets. Just as background, DIT, for those of you who are quite new to us, was established following the Brexit vote as a fully fledged Department of State covering all areas of trade and investment work that the government gets involved in, trade policy, as the Minister mentioned, the trade promotion activities that me and my colleagues get lead on, and the UK Export Finance Agency was brought into the department. For the purposes of, first slide please. For the purposes of the discussion today, there's 3 component parts to the organisation that perhaps most important for exporters. We have a network of UK-based international trade advisors throughout the, excuse me a sec, sorry.
I think we've just lost Barry there, the connection.
So I'm so sorry about that. My network is playing up a bit. I do apologise. As I was saying, we have a network of UK trade advisors throughout the English regions that are your local conduit and contact you to all the DTI services and help available. The devolved regions also have their own trade promotion agencies that can help provide similar services. We have a range of sector teams and industry and business sector teams based at our London HQ, covering all the major sectors. And that includes architecture and infrastructure and construction, which are perhaps the two most relevant to the audience today. And overseas, we have a network of trade teams across the globe. And in many ways, this is our USP, as these trade advisors act as our eyes and ears in markets across the world, liaising with local decision makers to understand current trade trends and developments and the opportunities for UK industry. Sorry, Richard, can you track back, please, to slide 2? Thank you very much. We're very fortunate in terms of UK architecture because it is regarded as world-class, and we have many of the leading global architects and architectural practices based in the UK. And as the Minister touched upon, we promote architecture through the strength of its professionalism, design, best practice and education excellence, amongst many other considerable attributes. In terms of the capabilities we're looking to highlight to overseas decision makers, this is not comprehensive, but we would focus on the expertise that exists within the UK around areas such as master planning, landscaping, urban design, sustainability, and also focus on the pan-sectoral expertise that our architects have across sectors such as healthcare, education and transportation. And the last bullet point there focuses on some of the subsectors that our team, Creative Industries, has been particularly engaged with over the last few years. It's fair to say that we've seen increasing growth and interest in projects that have major entertainment, leisure and retail component parts to them. And it's interesting that the retail sector continues to be an area that we focus on and offers more opportunity as the mix and the dynamics of that sector changes, and more leisure, entertainment and hospitality comes into the developments mix as the retail sector, the dynamics of the retail sector changes. But these projects that we are tracking are multi-layered with many component parts, and the mega projects in markets such as Saudi Arabia offer a range of architects and design expertise across a variety of disciplines. Next slide, please, Richard. This slide covers the priority markets that our team, the Creative Industries team, focus on, and the dynamics of which subsectors we focus on in these markets can vary. Traditionally, we've done a lot of work in the Gulf, particularly in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and we've looked at markets in the Asia Pacific. We've done quite a bit of work in Hong Kong and Macau, and some work in China. And again, some of that has been around major cultural developments and major resort type developments in Macau in particular. Next slide, please, Richard. Thank you. I just wanted to give some examples of DTI supported activities that we tend to support on our team. The type of activities we support would be traditional outward and inward trade missions, support at major exhibitions and trade fairs, and support to arrange seminars and thought leadership events designed to promote UK expertise and connect UK architects to decision makers and clients. I should say that the COVID crisis has changed the environment that we are operating in quite dramatically for the time being. And whilst this slide offers a snapshot of DTI supported activity to open up new market opportunities, it should be seen in the current context around COVID, and my comments will reflect this. You'll see that we've done quite a lot of work in the UAE, which is obviously a place that has been very active over the last few years with the Dubai Expo, but also as a centre for major hub for exhibitions and events. It's obviously had to adapt because of COVID, but we would hope that returns shortly. Cityscape in Dubai has been an event we have focused on for a number of years. It's a major property development event looking at opportunities across the region. And we would look to work alongside RIBA and augment the type of activity they do with some more B2B type activities, receptions and seminars that offer their members access to potential clients and partners. And it's a major plus now that RIBA have an office in the UAE, which we will continue to look at how we can collaborate in that market with them to promote UK architecture. I wanted to talk about two things specifically very quickly. Dubai Design Week. Laura in our office in Dubai it's taking place now, and our team has managed to develop a physical showcase to promote a range of UK designers. But because of COVID, they've backed this up with a major online campaign to promote the wider sector and promote the bilateral relationship that exists around UK design. And obviously you hear from Yamish shortly about Saudi Arabia. It's increasingly a market that we do more and more in and is on lots of companies' radar. We started with a trade mission in 2008, which was actually a joint DIT-RIBA mission that looked at opportunities around the evolving programme to develop the leisure, entertainment and cultural sectors. And we've got an established programme of activity there now, which Yamish will probably talk about in terms of what we're doing going forward. There's a lot of UK architects active in Saudi already, and the market is holding up in terms of the opportunities that are continuing to flow as they plan the series of giga projects around the kingdom. We've had to adapt, as I say, as the COVID crisis has taken hold. And events we had planned at the Business Design Week in Hong Kong and MAPIC in Cannes have not come to fruition as we'd wish. We're doing some virtual activity around those events, but for now, MAPIC is going to a digital event for us. We use it as an anchor event for Europe, and we usually take a trade mission and upwards of 20 architects and creative design and experience economy companies with us. We hope that would come back next year if the COVID crisis eases. But in terms of what I guess would be the new normal, we're looking to see how we could support our overseas network to deliver more online activities. And good examples of this are the recent webinar that was held by our team in Sweden that RIBA was involved with to promote opportunities around the metro system in Stockholm. And our colleagues in Dubai are arranging a cinema development webinar to look at opportunities in the Gulf on the 19th of November, and we can send you details of that. And that event is a good example of how our teams are working to identify specific niche opportunities in particular areas. Cinema development in the Gulf has been quite a potential area for the last couple of years, and will come back and does offer opportunities for UK architects and designers. Next slide, please, Richard. And just to finish off, I'm going to talk a bit about the range of help and advice that is available through the DIT services. There is a whole host of help and advice that you can plug into through DIT, working with our DIT UK regional trade specialists. This is country and sector specific advice, local market research, and research to identify clients and potential partners, which is normally delivered through our Overseas Market Information Service, OMIS. And OMIS is an incredibly versatile service and can be geared towards your specific individual requirements. I also wanted to touch upon the international fund. The fund opens this month, and can be accessed through our international trade advisors throughout the English regions. And we will provide more advice and information as that rolls out to RIBA to pass on to members. And just finally, to finish, I wanted to talk about the UK Export Finance offer, which provides help to companies through a range of export credit products to help them leverage risk when they're looking to work overseas. This can include traditional credit insurance facilities and support for companies through Export Working Capital Scheme and the Bond Support Scheme. So I hope that's offered a flavour of how we work and some of the projects we focus on in the creative sector. I now want to hand over to Ian Barnett, my Melbourne-based colleague, who's going to talk to you about opportunities across Australia and New Zealand. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry, and good morning, everybody from Melbourne, Australia. I'm hoping to change up the tempo a bit with some pickies and a cook's tour of what's happening in Australia and New Zealand. So I'm the sector lead for DIT for infrastructure across Australia and New Zealand. I nearly became an architect, but I have to confess that I'm an engineer, and would you believe, a geotechnical engineer. Prior to joining DIT, I was a director of Parsons Brinckerhoff and then WSP. I'm supported by a great team here in Australia and New Zealand. I have Ben in Melbourne, Mark in Brisbane, Tony in Auckland, and soon a new team member in Sydney. Our focus is to help UK companies to work into roads, rail, ports, airports, and urban regeneration. The hot sectors in Australia and New Zealand are rail and urban regeneration, and as everybody would realise, the pause button has been pushed on airports for the moment. Next slide, please. So I just thought I'd talk a little bit about COVID and response to what's happening here. So Australia and New Zealand have fared better than most countries in their approach to COVID, mainly because we could close our borders. Melbourne has just come out of a second wave, and you would have seen that on your media, and the rest of the country is now opening up. New Zealand had 2 lockdowns, one in March to May, and then in Auckland, and all our international borders are still closed. It has had an impact on our economy. We've had a slump in GDP, and you can see some figures there, and also our unemployment rates have come up. But I suppose the thing that is refreshing for our geography is the fiscal stimulus that our governments have brought to this situation. And you can see there the percentage of GDP, Australia is 14%, New Zealand 20%, compared to the UK's 8%. Both the Australian and New Zealand governments are using infrastructure to stimulate economic recovery. And it's really important to recognise that we have behind that a £100 billion pipeline of funded infrastructure projects. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk to you about this graph. This is what we call our tsunami graph. And you'll see on the left-hand axis is billions of Australian dollars, and then across the bottom a time. And you'll see there's 2 bumps to this, and you'll see that there's a little dip in around 2016. So prior to 2016, Australia was a resource-led economy with basically mining happening in WA and in Queensland. And this slide is talking about just on rail projects. You can see then, we then have this huge wave of infrastructure projects coming forward. And there's a reason for this tipping point that occurred in 2016. Firstly, the federal government introducing a concept of asset recycling. So if state governments built a project, funded it, and then sold it and used funding for more infrastructure, the federal government would match 1-for-1 any new projects. The second thing was the federal government funding the building of the new inland rail, which is a 1,700-kilometre pipeline going inland through Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland to take freight. And the third thing is the building of the new Western Sydney Airport, a $10 billion brand new airport as the second Sydney's airport. And you can see there the different colours. You can see that blue is New South Wales. You can see that green is Victoria. And what the government is determined to do, instead of having that blip at the top, is to continue that going forward. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take you on a Cook's tour of some of the opportunities that are available in Australia and New Zealand. This slide is just focusing on transport infrastructure with a rail focus. So we have metros being built in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne and in Perth, and they are currently underway. We have coming up in Sydney 2 fantastic new metros, one called Sydney Metro West, which is connecting the CBD to the second city of Sydney at Parramatta, and then the third one is connecting Parramatta to the new Western Sydney Airport, and that's been recently announced. In Melbourne, would you believe, we don't have a rail link to the airport, so one of those is coming up shortly, and then a very exciting project which is a ring around Melbourne, a peripheral rail link. Lots of happening is also happening in New Zealand, particularly in Auckland. So City Rail Link is underway, and then with the current government being re-elected in New Zealand, a focus on light rail and the Auckland to Hamilton passenger rail. Next slide, please. Urban regeneration. Australia is experiencing significant population growth, and that will continue post-COVID. And it's giving us an opportunity to do some fantastic urban regeneration. Probably the most exciting one is the creation of a brand new city around the Western Sydney Airport called the Western Sydney Aerotropolis. There is a city deal in place, which is a 20-year deal with federal, state and local governments coming together to bring this off. The next opportunity is one in Melbourne, a 480-hectare site just adjacent to the CBD, which will be up for a mixed-use development. Brisbane doesn't miss out with Queen's Wharf and also new stadiums around Whangarei and other areas. And in New Zealand, the Unitech development in Auckland, which is primarily housing. Next slide, please. And lastly, social infrastructure. You can't have response to population growth without social infrastructure. And there's a variety of different areas which architects can take a key role. In Victoria, we have a schools project, which is a PPP. In Sydney, the Sydney Fish Market, which will happen along the Sydney West Metro line. Canterbury or Christchurch in New Zealand, a new stadium. And in New Zealand particularly, Kensington Ora is a housing project, which New Zealand has a significant shortage of housing. In closing, I'd just like to mention that as Martin did in the beginning, it's really important to understand what is your niche and what is additive to this market. How we can help you with introductions. And it's important to recognise to work with a local partner. We helped John McCaslin win the design of the new central station in Sydney, working with Woods Bagot, and we helped Zaha Hadid, working with Cox, to win the design of the new Western Sydney Airport terminal. So we are here to help, and we really hope that you choose to come to Australia and New Zealand. Thank you. I'll now pass to my colleague, Mike Collins, who's my buddy and friend in Singapore. Thank you, Mike.
Good afternoon and good morning in the UK. Ian, thank you. What a real pleasure that was, and I can't help but wonder what sort of an architect you would have been. No doubt a glamorous one, to say the least. Okay, thank you. It's a real pleasure to talk with the industry. It's an industry that champions better buildings, communities, and the environment. It's a sector in high demand. You know, cities, planners, governments look to the UK, they look to our architects to help them realise their visions. I think what you've just heard from Ian is mirrored here in Southeast Asia. Transport infrastructure lies at the heart of some of our work streams. And I'm not going to put many numbers out, but let me put one to you. Some $22.6 trillion of infrastructure is required in ASEAN by 2030. That's according to the ASEAN Development Bank report of 2017. With that comes huge challenges. You know, some of these markets with the biggest demand are least equipped to procure it. There's sizable investments from Japan and China, which has typically been transport focused. However, there is a huge role and opportunity for the UK to shape these outcomes. Let me quickly address three themes. So slide number 2, please. Thank you very much. And car light. I mean, it's no surprise 70% of the world's population are set to live in urban areas by 2030. I think we're all very much aware of that. But the real challenge for city planners here in Southeast Asia is how to break this cycle of success. Success equals cars. Cars clog the cities. But there is a need for roads. Indeed, the ASEAN 2025 master plan includes 19 priority projects, of which 11 of them are roads. So question back to all of our RIBA members, how can we share our ideas on a greener, cleaner roads that share space with all users and have sustainability at its core? Many cities in Southeast Asia are at the early stages of master planning, and it's a great opportunity for architects and city planners to get involved, to steer local governments and promote the ideas and experience of shared spaces and walkable cities. Agencies play a critical role in the work we do. DIT here work closely with transport agencies, governments, ministries. We work with organisations like the ASEAN Development Bank and the World Bank to promote thinking and ideas about connectivity. We welcome you to join this conversation. Please just reach out. The benefits are clear for all of us. Improved sustainability reduces carbon, urban regeneration, city attractiveness attracts more investment, healthy and happy population, particularly in these times of COVID, has a positive economic impact. And most importantly, it's an intermodal transport. People need an alternative. Failing that, they will continue to use the car. So let me quickly walk through 3 examples of the work we do and the opportunities therein. Starting in Singapore, the market that I'm based in. It's a sophisticated and advanced economy which places the car first. This is changing as Singapore explores ideas that make the city walkable, dual usage of bicycles, and the need to share ideas of what a city should look like. So we work closely with the Land Transport Authority and the Urban Redevelopment Authority to promote the UK offer. Bangkok, it's a city with a real need to improve its walkability, from crazy paving to haphazard electrics. When talking to the Ministry of Transport, they are keen to hear from UK designers, city planners and transport agencies alike. And finally, Cambodia, a country that's just embarking on its vision, which recognises the need to tackle car density. What's the alternative? So in summary, we have huge transport and planning opportunities to quickly run through, and these mirror the points that Barry and Ian had made before me. Master planning, city planning, designing cities for ageing populations, MRT, LRT, HSR, regeneration projects, and most importantly, connectivity. So that covers my points really on the car light and getting around connectivity. So slide number 2, please. My second theme, upcycling buildings. And I love the expression, which I did see in Melbourne, Ian, which was demolish or repolish. You know, everybody's building. I've just run the number, $22.6 trillion. That's a lot of escalators, that's a lot of concrete, that's a lot of building. But as an industry, you signed up to a 2030 climate challenge of net zero. Yet buildings generate nearly 40% of our annual global greenhouse gas emissions. The old cliche, the wrecking ball has always been a great symbol of urban progress, getting things done. My point to all of the people on the call really remains the same. Architects can and do play an important role in the conservation, the modernisation and the adaptation of existing buildings. Demolishing buildings not only produces millions of tons of waste, it also costs millions of pounds in high energy, guzzling resources, and it accounts for a shocking amount of plastic consumption. So My message here on this slide is there is increasingly a receptive ear in the region to repurposing. Our role as DIT is to plug you into that conversation, demonstrate to all of the governments in the region there is an alternative, preserve legacy and identity, reduce the carbon footprint, and really showcase UK leading edge thinking. Slide 3, please. And I'll keep this really short and to the point, really. I could list the projects, but there's no need. It would take hundreds of slides of PowerPoint. There are 55,000 global infrastructure projects. Many of them are contained here in Southeast Asia. There's no shortage of work. Rail, MRT, HSR, station design in every single country in Southeast Asia. Kuala Lumpur, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Cambodia, Singapore. Master planning, civic architecture, thought leadership, urban regeneration. But finally, the real questions we should be asking of everyone on the call is, why come to Southeast Asia? The work streams are strong, it's financially transparent, it's legally aligned to the UK, there are strong cultural links back to the UK, and UK design is desired, it's wanted, and it's recognised here in market. So let me say thank you for listening. We welcome you to Southeast Asia. We look forward to seeing you here. And let me pass you on now to Laura Boss in Dubai. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mike. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Laura Boss, and I lead on the creative industries and experience economy sector for the Department for International Trade in the UAE. I am based in Dubai, but I travel to Abu Dhabi and the other Emirates frequently, at least before the global pandemic. Today, I will briefly guide you through developments and opportunities for architects in the Emirates. So first of all, the UAE is the UK's largest export market in the Middle East and the 13th biggest globally. And the UAE is the UK's 4th largest export market outside the EU. And that means that there's a really strong and important relationship there between the two countries. Next slide, please. The country has an incredibly diverse range of architectural highlights that can broadly be categorized in 4 different areas. So first of all, traditional Emirati heritage. And that is old traditional buildings with wind towers and defining the landscape of old Dubai. Although in reality, a lot of these buildings are actually new. And now, perhaps more than ever, the UAE values the incorporation of its rich culture, heritage, and identity in the development and designs of new projects. Secondly, when you drive through the different parts of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah, you will see a striking amount of modernist type buildings that were all built in the 70s and 80s when the country went through the highest growth, really. And then contemporary architecture, which is of course what the UAE is most well known for. If you drive down the main road, Sheikh Zayed Road, you'll see its iconic skyscrapers, many of which have been designed by iconic British architects. Like this one in the picture is the Opus building by Zaha Hadid, which was completed just last year. But there's also many modern contemporary mixed-use developments, for example, the Beach in JBR and City Walk, both designed by Benoit. And then a 4th category is special projects, which is, I find, really important in the UAE because we have many of those. An example is the Sheikh Zayed National Museum, designed by Fosters and Partners on Saadiyat Island. We have many of these types of special developments in the country, and one of those includes as well Expo 2020, which I have to mention because it is what the UAE has focused on for the past few years. Next slide, please. So the United Arab Emirates, why should you come here? There's many benefits for architects and for business in general to be active in the UAE, and first of all because of its strategic geographical location. Dubai is regarded as a regional hub and a commercial capital for the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. It's a really important market for re-exporting to other countries, and of course, there's no taxation on personal income, and there's only 5% VAT. The country is ranked 21st in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business overall ranking, but first in the MENA region, and there are very strong cultural and historical links because many Emiratis have studied in Britain, have homes there, and make regular visits to London and other areas of the UK. And perhaps the biggest benefit that the UAE has for business is that English is widely spoken and is accepted as the language for business, for doing business in general. Now then, if we go to some of the challenges that the country is currently facing, obviously the country has been hit hard by the global pandemic. And one of the reasons for that is because the UAE was betting on Expo 2020, which was scheduled to take place from October of this year until April 2021, and it was to be the world's greatest show with 25 million expected visitors that would have spent time in Dubai. And to this, Dubai had initiated a large amount of infrastructure and real estate projects. And I have to be really frank and say that right now, a lot of the projects have been put on hold and the economy has understandably slowed down, as it has in many places. But it will remain to be seen what the long-term effects of the pandemic will be on the UAE economy. Another challenge is the issue around RIBA qualification and standards. DIT is engaging with the RIBA on raising standards with several institutions in the market here. And the main issue seems to be that architecture is not always recognized as its own separate discipline and often associated with engineering, which means that you have to partner with engineers to be able to undertake projects here. And so there's a need to recognize professional standards and have local regulatory bodies to be able to hold architects to those standards. DIT is currently undertaking a joint trade and investment review with the Gulf Cooperation Council, and we're trying to identify barriers to trade and investment and draw recommendations for future cooperation between the two. And one of our priority sectors for this review is architecture. And to this, we have launched a short 4-question survey. And I would like to ask if you have done business in the UAE or the wider Gulf region before, then it would be a huge help to us if you could complete this survey. We can use the findings when we take this forward on several levels. So we will send around the survey link. As I said, it's a very brief survey, only 4 questions. After this webinar, really grateful if you could help us by completing it. Next slide, please. If we look at opportunity in the Emirates, there is opportunity to be found across the country. And first of all, that's in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is focusing on becoming a tourism destination, focusing on culture, heritage, and entertainment. Most of you might know Saadiyat Island is Abu Dhabi's landmark cultural quarter, currently under development, and it will hold several iconic world-renowned museums that will act as anchors to the wider cultural district around it. Some of those museums are currently under construction. The Louvre is already open, but we expect opportunity to arise on this in Saadiyat Island as a destination. Secondly, Yas Island, which is Abu Dhabi's entertainment destination, and will hold several well-known visitor attractions and theme parks, including Ferrari World, which is already open, Sea World, which is currently under construction, and we expect several others to be announced over time. So that is something to keep in mind as well. If we look at Abu Dhabi city in general, then the Emirate is aiming at weaving culture, heritage, and identity throughout the city, and by transforming public spaces, parks, and making the city a more enjoyable and culturally rich place for residents and tourists alike to spend time. And in a way, the Emirate wants to give back to its Emirati residents by making the city a nice place to live in. So that is happening in Abu Dhabi as well. If we look at Dubai, Dubai is obviously already a world-class tourism destination. And it's true that the Emirate has been focusing very much on Expo 2020, and it's now been postponed until October 2021. There won't be many real architectural design opportunities for Expo at all at this stage. But if you're interested in any other type of design, let's say fit-out design or experiential design, then there will still be opportunity for you at Expo 2020. And the best way to learn about these opportunities is, first of all, to get in touch with me and with my colleague Tim Sada, who focuses completely on Expo 2020, and we can help you with that. Secondly, to register on the Expo 2020 procurement portal. Then Dubai is also still focusing on several hospitality projects. In the picture, you'll see Marsa Al Arab, which is a UK export finance backed project. But recently, a few weeks ago, several other developments have been announced, and one of them is a 12-kilometer long new beach development, which will focus on leisure activities. It will have spaces for swimming, it will have running tracks, and it's all about making that area more livable for the residents in Dubai. Dubai is also focusing on environmental sustainability, so they want to kind of make sustainability a key theme throughout new developments in the city. And then there's a few niche developments that I want to highlight that might not have a large design component to them, but they are at the center of what the infrastructure team in the UAE is doing at the moment. And one of them is data centers. So all the big players, Amazon, Microsoft, Equinox, and there's a few others, are either building or expanding data centers in both Abu Dhabi and Dubai at the moment. And besides that, there's a strong focus on green energy initiatives as well. If, however, I had to highlight one the biggest opportunity for the UAE really is the fact that the UAE is a hub to the wider GCC region. And because of that, many architects, but also other companies in the creative industries, in the design sector, have set up office here and use that office as a hub to work in other countries like Saudi, like Bahrain, etc. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Yamish, who can tell you a bit more about what's happening in the kingdom.
Morning, everyone. This is Yamish. I'm the creative head at Saudi. I would like to briefly talk about the opportunities in Saudi. Richard, can you move on to the next slide? Yeah, Saudi is actually under an immense midst of a transformation program called the Vision 2030. It's a plan to diversify the economy from a non-oil based economy and increase employment, which is underpinned by a number of giga and mega projects. Vision 2030 will see huge infrastructure investments, out of which about 2 trillion have been already announced, primarily under what they call the giga projects, which is NEOM, Red Sea, Qiddiya, and Amala. And there's also a number of other main what we term as mega projects going across the country. The public sector infrastructure projects generally were funded by the government, but now under Saudi's Vision 2030 and associated programs, the government is more and more keen on attracting PPP partnerships in its infrastructure and other projects across the country. At the moment, the government is setting up regulations for those and looking at which projects they can finance through PPP. Next slide, Richard, please. So I'd like to briefly touch upon the 4 giga projects that we mentioned earlier. A giga project is a term used by Saudis to differentiate from the scale and size of generally what happens across the world. For example, the first one we're going to look at is NEOM. NEOM is aimed to be a futuristic city underpinned by tech and smart city technologies. The planned total investment is about 500 billion, and the site sits on the majority of it sits with Saudi and shares a border with Egypt and Jordan. It will cover a total area of like 27,000 square kilometers approximately. There's been significant progress since 2019. There's been an airport built, infrastructure, basic infrastructure works have been going on. There's a couple of hospitality projects already started, and the NEOM, the complete staff have moved to the site a couple of months back. Next please. The Red Sea is aimed to be a luxury tourist destination. So there's about 21 islands being developed off the Red Sea coast in Saudi, with a total area of about 20,000 square kilometers. It is aimed to be a center for tourism, recreation, and relaxation, and will consist of about 14 luxury hotels, luxury residences, housing units, an airport which is being designed by Foster, ports, marinas, and the project will cost about 10 billion. Again, the same thing, the master plan's been approved, and currently infrastructure works are going on, with phase 1 being activated in a couple of months. Next slide, please. Hatea is aimed to be an entertainment city along the lines of Disney and others across the world. It's 40 kilometers away from Saudi's capital. It will have a number of recreational facilities, the majority of which would be Six Flags. The area itself is about 334 square kilometers and will become the largest entertainment destination in the world. Phase 1 is being activated, the contractor has been appointed, and the construction work has just started. On to the next slide. The last of the giga project is what we call Amala. Amala is a 3,800 square kilometer which will development which would be an uber luxury wellness tourism destination. The master plan's been approved recently. There have been a number of UK architects who have been assigned to develop some of the facilities in the area. Fosters have been assigned to build the airport, and they also are involved in some of the master plan pieces. These are some of the giga projects that's happening in Saudi. There are also a number of mega projects. A lot of focus is around tourism, hospitality. As Saudi, as you might have known, was never open to public, but that's changed over the past two years, and all these projects are aimed at increasing Saudi's visibility across the world. Next slide, please. Okay, that's it from my end. I'll pass it on back to Richard.
Thank you, Yamesh, and thank you, everybody. That was really fascinating to hear all the insights. Just a few highlights from RIBA following that as well. The RIBA is looking to program a series of activities at Expo in 2021. So really looking forward to working with Laura and others to promote RIBA members and architects. We are also planning with our colleagues in Singapore, including Mike, to an event on retrofitting again in 2021. And finally, once we don't have Chris Dunn from China today, we are very busy in China. We have been busy the last 6 months promoting RIBA and UK architects. We've got lots of plans for 2021, and it's great to be working with our members there, here, and also with UK DIT. Chris, again, from China, has apologized for not being able to join the webinar, but he has sent me a few points that he wanted me to relay to the audience today. I'm just going to read a few key points from Chris. He says, if you are an international company that is already exporting to overseas market, then you should have China's strategy. Even if the strategy is not to enter China at this point for reason X, Y, Z, it really is a key market. And there's no excuses for international companies not to have a China market, and he's very happy to have a discussion with anyone who's interested. And he also says that think of China market like a continent. Scale is vast scale. There are significant regional and cultural differences, and I can echo that, having done this for RIBA the last 12 months, including languages spoken, Mandarin, Cantonese, plus local dialects such as Shanghainese. And just a couple of points from Chris. The scale in 2019, real estate and construction sectors accounted for 14% of China's total GDP. This is roughly equivalent to the entire GDP of Italy. So that's the scale we're talking about. And he talks about focusing on 3 metropolitan regions at the core of China's regional development strategy: the Yangtze River Delta, the major East Coast cities of Shanghai, Nanjing, Guangzhou, Ningbo, population of about 220 million, which is about a quarter of China's GDP, and most UK practices have their China studio in Shanghai and have been successful. I'm very happy to share the bits from Chris. I just want to add from him to say that he asked the studio leads of 2 UK practices to describe what it's like to work in China. They said rewarding, exhausting, relentless. Chris interpreted that as exhausting and relentless to mean very busy and lots of travel, with opportunity always creative and never boring. So that's the message from China. So I'm really keen to allow our audience to ask as many questions as they can. We have about 15 minutes or so to our speakers today. Please do add your question to the chat function, the Q&A, and then we will read it out. We have a few in now as it is, but I'm going to start with a question for Laura, please. There's a question from one of audience, Laura. How would they find out more details of DIT events in Gulf outside that's already promoted by RIBA?
Thank you, Aslina. The best way really is to get in touch with me so I can feed in any events that we are participating at. I think whenever there is an event around design, architecture, we will usually try to be present there. So we usually have a presence at Cityscape. We have a presence at Downtown Design and Dubai Design Week. We have a presence usually at Index. And so that there's many other events as well. If you're unsure, I think always best to reach out to the local DIT trade advisor in your region or perhaps at Post, so myself.
Thank you, Laura. Barry, can we come to you? I think you have answered, Keith, but I'm going to read it out anyway. It's about USA. Should DIT not be prioritizing the USA for architecture, particularly given the new administration and the revised priorities, particularly on low carbon climate change? Barry, is that something you want to say about that?
Hi, Aslina. Yeah, I went back and replied to Keith direct. I'm going to follow up with him, but it's something that we can follow up with our team in the US. I mean, we do from time to time do bits and pieces in architecture, but it's not been a segment of the creative industries that has been major for the team there. They've focused more on creative content, but I think it's a justifiable question. It's something we can explore, and maybe as Lena set up a call with some of our team, some of our senior team over there to introduce them to you and talk about how we can do some more work, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Barry. Question for Mike. Mike, there is, you obviously showed us many opportunities, lots of exciting things there. How would an architect in the UK tap into all this opportunity? That's a big question, Mike.
Well, it's a very similar question to the one that just Laura got, and it's a similar answer, so do forgive me. Please reach out to me. We've got a great team here in market across the region. Ian is in Australia with his team. I'm here in Southeast Asia with a team in every single market. So look, we can cover any market. If you land in Singapore, it's the best place because obviously it's language, it's the closest part, it's a great launch pad into Southeast Asia, why many companies have their head offices here. So we have a sector team in the UK, which obviously Barry can help you with, we can land you there. We have great.gov.uk, which is another great landing place. Reach out to me and my team here in Market as Lena. Please do provide the details and follow up. And we're happy to do the hand holding. We'll do the introductions. And look, we want to make it work for you. And in fairness, the UK practice has been here for 50 years in some cases, and it's a really good place to do business.
Thanks, Mike. Martin, can I bring you back in? I suppose from peer to peer. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is from our members who says, as a new person or a new practice looking to export, never exported before, how would they actually start to think about exporting as a strategy for the business? You know, thinking about the vast countries out there, China, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and the rest. Where should they start? In your experience, Martin, what would be your advice?
Thanks, Aslina.
You're very welcome.
I would say you need to know where your strengths are. So and SMEs or very, very large companies, they can do exactly the same thing. They need to know where their strengths are. I do believe having a niche or a specialism or being outstanding in some way is highly valuable. And whether that is being award-winning or whether it's being in a particular field, and the point that Keith Williams picks up about retrofit, for example, that is going to become one of the most important areas of skills in the architectural profession going forward as we seek to retro first rather than tear down and build new. So there's undoubted opportunity in that respect, but you need to know where your strengths are. And then you need to apply those strengths to a market. And in pre-COVID times, we'd jump on a plane and we'd fly to a market and we'd sort of wander around. But nowadays, that's not so easy. And some people will be turned off by that. But actually, I think it's the potential is much greater for us to export, but to export without traveling, without incurring air miles. That needs local expertise. We genuinely have found a huge amount of help from DIT in the work we've undertaken in the Nordics, in particular over the last 10 years or so. But also increasingly the relationships we're building with architects in local markets around the world, where they know the market but don't necessarily have the expertise or the folio of work. We can provide that if we have a mutually beneficial relationship. And so I think doing a bit of homework, pulling together networks of contacts and mutual aid effectively is the best way to export without having to get on a plane.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you, Martin. I think the next question is, I think I know what the answer is, but Barry, I think you could cover this one. Does the DIT still charge for the advisory service?
Some of it. If you do more intensive research through the Overseas Market Information Service that I mentioned, then some of that is chargeable. There's a lot of help and advice and support that is free. And a lot of the events that I mentioned and the trade missions, actually, lots of those, there'd be a nominal charge, but a lot of that is free at the moment. I just wanted to pick up on what Martin was saying about these strategic relationships with partners in country, where you can offer some specific expertise. And I think that's crucial if you can find a specialism or a niche. And then just going back from that, I think there's some help that our ITAs, regional ITAs in the UK can do in terms of helping companies to prioritise which markets they want to look at. So that should be a first protocol as well in terms of developing your export strategy for newcomers. people who are looking at where in the world they might be able to provide some expertise and identifying routes to market. But the OMIS service, I should say, just going back on that, it is subsidised. Companies can explore with the ITAs exactly what they need under that and tailor it specifically to their needs. And we will give companies a work plan that they don't have to commit to until they know the costs associated with that. So it is quite a versatile product to use. And the internationalisation fund that I mentioned will be something that will offer additional support to companies, financial support as well, as that rolls out. So I'll provide details of that to you, Aslina, to spread amongst your membership.
Thank you, Barry. And we will most certainly make sure our membership is aware of Internationalisation Fund and what it entails and so forth. Just responding to Joe Bacon. Hi, Joe. Hope you're okay. Yes, this session is recorded and it will be available to share with colleagues who are not able to be here today. It will hopefully be on our RIBA YouTube channel. Now, there is a great question from a small practice. What are the opportunities for small practice? Most of the projects here are enormous and only viable for the largest of practices, indicated by the repeated referencing of Fosters. Ian and Yamesh, can I come to you? Can I start with Ian first, please?
Yes, and so what we have is I suppose, a pipeline of mega projects. But if I go back to Martin's point, there is opportunities within those projects for some fantastic architecture. So don't be put off by the size of the projects, because each mega project is divided up into whole lots of different bits. So if I look at the example, the new metro from Parramatta to the Western Sydney Airport, there will be about 5 or 6 stations along that way. So each station would have a different DNA. Each precinct would be different, so the skills required from one station is different to the next station. So please don't be put off by the size of the projects, because local partners are looking for something that's different. So if you can bring something that's different, even its niche, a 5 to 10 person practice, just like Martin, would make a huge difference.
Thank you. Yamesh, any thoughts on that?
Thank you. I would like to echo what Ian said. I mean, I did mention Fosters and all those, but that's around master planning, which the larger companies tend to do. But there would be individual. These projects are like you saw the scale of those. It starts from 29,000 square kilometers, so it's not just for one designer. That there's an opportunity for everyone there, from the smaller firms to the much larger, the big boys like Fosters.
Aslina, just to add to that, I just wanted to pick up on some specialist services that we see British companies pick up quite often around areas like urban planning, public realm, and services like wayfinding. Increasingly, their overseas clients are looking to the UK for these mixed developments and wayfinding services. So not huge contracts, but quite increasingly more of a number of this type of contract is being picked up by quite small British practices, but with specialisms in these areas.
And Barry, a follow-up question for me. Would those clients come to you? And therefore...
in various ways, they will come to our trade advisors in country, so Laura, Yamesh, Ian and those guys. They would come out of our activities at exhibitions. They would come via trade missions, where we had arranging meetings and programs with potential partners in country and decision makers. So yes, that's quite a long answer. I apologise, but yeah, they do come to us, and then we would use you and your team, and we would use our networks to find people who can do these services.
Thank you, Barry. Now it's now 10:30. I think that's a good way to close today as well. So our audience out there, RIBA International is here to support you. We are here to support our UK members wanting to work abroad. Please do contact us. We're very happy to connect you with the IT or provide you the relevant information. I think there's huge opportunities, and clearly a conversation is always welcome. It's been truly a pleasure to be chairing today's inspiring session. There are clearly huge opportunities out there, and so many goodwill and also support available to architects from across the world, like demonstrated by our speakers today. There have been so many examples of exciting opportunity in international markets, and the UK architecture sector clearly have got huge strength. I do hope you have found this session useful. Please get in touch with us if we can help with any queries regarding this event. But we will also be sharing the information across from all the contacts from today. I'd like to thank Greg Hand and Alan Vallance for their time this morning, and also to all our friends at DIT for making the event happen today. And finally, thanks to all our audience for taking the time to join the event. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining and contributing with such interesting questions, and also to our speakers. Remember to follow us at RIBA Global to keep abreast of upcoming activities. Do find us more of these videos and other videos on our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and stay safe.